We are told many years after Rapture. Many were killed, and only few humans remain who have chosen not to speak. There are demonic humanoid creatures called Burned Ones, who are drawn to and prey upon human flesh and blood. We meet Azrael, who is making a bracelet for her lover Kenan, and hears some noise and goes away. She sees Kenan has made a fire, and she puts it out to avoid the creatures getting attracted to the place. They leave the place and go away from there, and Azrael gives Kenan the bracelet she has made. Suddenly, they hear a noise and they hide behind a truss and decide to check out the area separately. Azrael goes towards the forest and is caught by two men who belong to a cult who prey to the creatures. They hit her and capture her, and Azrael sees Kenan has also been captured and put in car trunk. Azrael is put in a separate car, and both cars drive from there and arrive at a location. The men take out Azrael and take her to Josephine, who is their leader, and tie Azrael to a chair. Josephine cuts Azrael's leg, and some blood comes out, and they sense something is coming. The wind starts blowing strong, and Josephine and others go away from Azrael and face the opposite direction. They start doing a weird prayer by breathing heavily, and we see a creature coming towards Azrael. Azrael is scared and tries to free herself, and the creature starts screaming and coming close to her. One of the men notices Azrael is freeing herself and goes to stop her and tie her back to the chair. The others continue praying, and Azrael kills the man with the chair handle by stabbing him in the neck. The creature catches the man and kills him and eats him, and Azrael frees herself and runs from there. The others finish the prayer and see their colleague has been killed by the creature, and Azrael has escaped. Azrael runs and finds a river and remembers her time spent with Kenan and worries for him. She applies some leaves and ties her wound with cloth, but sees a creature coming towards her. She quickly hides in a nearby cave, and the creature is not able to detect blood and goes away. Azrael goes towards the forest and finds cars' tire marks and decides to follow them to find Kenan. She finds the cult's campsite and sees a soldier there guarding the camps, and Azrael decides to go in. She quietly sneaks in the camp and hides behind a car to avoid being seen by the guard. Suddenly, she sees the bracelet she had made for Kenan and realizes he is also here. Josephine comes and whistles to call her men, and Azrael runs from there and hides behind a tent. She sees Josephine come near a tent and checks on her mother, who is sick and bedridden. Josephine then goes to a church where all cult people have gathered and are praying to their God. We see Miriam, who is their leader, and she is pregnant and worships a hole in the wall. Josephine looks scared of her, and Miriam finishes her prayer and asks everyone to leave. Miriam comes to know their sacrifice to creatures of Azrael has failed, and she hits Josephine. She hears some noise and sends Josephine to find her, and we see Azrael is hiding below the church. She sees Josephine and hides, but Josephine finds her and catches her and tries to choke her. Azrael hits her and runs from there and sees there are many people in the camp now, and she can't hide. Josephine sounds the alarm to warn everyone about Azrael, and they all see her in the camp. Azrael runs from there and barely manages to escape, and one of the villagers shoots at her, but misses. She runs towards the forest to find some help and later sees her hand is bleeding, and a creature finds her. Azrael runs from there and is followed by more creatures, and she manages to find a car on the road. She is not hit by the car, and the driver asks if she is okay and what she is doing here, but she doesn't reply. Azrael quickly sits in the car and asks for lift, and the man drives her away from there. He sees her hand is injured and gives her some cloth and asks her to tell her name and speak something. Azrael says she cannot speak and shows him her neck, and we see she has cut her vocal cord, so she cannot talk. The man is surprised to see this, and to lighten the mood, he plays some music, and Azrael also enjoys it. Suddenly the man is shot by one of Josephine's men, and the car loses control and hits the shooter also. The car crashes in a wall and the driver is killed and Azrael is badly injured, and she gets out of the car. She is barely able to walk but sees the shooter is still alive and goes and attacks him in anger. She tries to take his gun, and they start fighting, and Azrael takes a stone to hit him and takes his gun. The man catches her from behind and tries to choke her, and Azrael fires the gun and kills him. She gets scared and goes away from there and decides to take his gun for her protection. After walking for a while, she sees Kenan is sitting near a tree but isn't saying anything. She goes near him but is caught in a trap and is hanged upside down from a tree. We see Kenan has been injured and his hand has been nailed to a tree, and he was used as a bait for her. A man comes and picks up her gun and hits Kenan and hears some noise of creatures nearby. Azrael tries to free herself but injures her wounded hand again, and it starts to bleed badly. Suddenly, she sees the man is attacked by the creatures who drag him and start eating him alive. Azrael manages to climb a tree and watches this, and the creatures kill the man and drink his blood. Kenan tells Azrael to be quiet and suddenly is attacked by the creatures who start attacking him also. One creature climbs the tree to go to Azrael, and she manages to free her leg and uses the rope to tie the creature. She then pushes the creature down, and he hangs and dies, and she falls from the tree and is injured. Azrael gets up and picks up the gun from the ground and goes in the forest towards the camp. She whistles to draw the villagers out and sees how many are actually in the village. The villagers whistle back but don't see anyone and feel suspicious and goes towards the forest. Azrael quietly sneaks in the camp and goes towards the church and enters it to find Miriam there. She goes towards her with her gun, and Miriam shows her she is pregnant and attacks Azrael. Miriam's men take Azrael outside to offer her as a sacrifice and apply blood on her face. They then push her down a grave and cover it, and Azrael tries to shout for help but cannot do anything. He struggles to get out of the grave, and suddenly, she sees a door open inside the grave, leading to an exit. She crawls through the hole to find a way out and suddenly sees a creature waiting inside for her. She runs away from there and goes back to the coffin, and the creature comes and smells her. The creature does not attack her, and Azrael remembers when she attacked Miriam, her blood was left on her hand. Azrael comes to know since Miriam worships them, the creatures consider her as her own. The creature leaves from there, and Azrael is saved, and others villagers return to the camp. Josephine checks on her mother, and Azrael comes out of the coffin through a hole. Azrael goes towards the church, and we see Miriam is applying some medicine to her wound. Josephine comes to check on her, and they suddenly hear some noise outside, and she rushes out. She comes and sees her mother's tent has caught fire, and she tires to put out the fire with water. Other comes and help her, and see other tents are also catching fire, and everybody is in panic. All try to put the fire out, and Azrael starts shooting the villagers and killing them one by one. Josephine is scared to see this and cannot do anything, and she sees one of her colleagues get killed. All the tents are on fire and their campsite is destroyed, and one villager tries to finds Azrael and take his revenge. He picks a gun and tries to find her and accidentally shoots his own colleague who dies. Suddenly Azrael comes from behind and cuts his head with a sword and kills him, and sees Josephine has also died. Azrael goes inside church to find Miriam and kill her, but is attacked by Miriam with a knife. They both start fighting and try to kill each other, and suddenly Azrael grabs Miriam and bites her neck. She starts bleeding, and suddenly her water breaks, and Miriam comes to know the baby is coming. Miriam tries to run and hide from there, and suddenly we see Josephine is alive and fires a gun on Azrael. She fires her gun to kill Azrael and sees Miriam is in pain and about to deliver the baby. Azrael takes this opportunity and attacks Josephine, and then picks a knife and attacks her in the neck. Josephine dies, and Azrael hears the baby is born and sees Miriam is scared and runs away from the baby. Miriam picks up a sword and slits her own throat and kills herself, and suddenly the wind starts blowing heavily. All the creatures start moving towards the church, and Azrael goes towards the baby to see it. She goes in and is surprised to see the baby and picks it up, and the creatures come inside the church. Azrael brings the baby towards the creatures, who start shouting in joy, and we see the baby is a goat-like creature. The baby looks at Azrael, and she smiles back at the baby.